This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 370. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
I think this is going to be a very fun show. I think we might even play a little role reversal in this show.
Oh,
I think one of us might be more outraged about some things than the other, and I look forward to maybe just playing a different role. We'll just call it a role play show.
This is maybe not what I expected to get into here. I didn't know we were coming into a role playing event.
Yeah, you didn't dress up?
No, I didn't even. Gosh, I feel like I should have now.
I'm gonna go take this unicorn costume off then. So just one sec.
No. Leave that on. I can deal with this. This is something I can work with.
I thought it was symbolic because I am that unique.
It's official, Adam. We have reached the second Hawkpocalypse under the Pete Carroll era, and I wasn't willing to call it until Bobby Wagner signed. Like, he was released. I was waiting. I was just holding on to the shred of hope that maybe he could come back, or maybe even if he went to somewhere, I don't know, outside of the division, like the Ravens, then maybe it wouldn't be as devastating. But no. The Hawkpocalypse is here. We have a 9-time Pro Bowl player gone, our quarterback, Russell Wilson. We've got an 8-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All-Pro, and future Hall of Fame linebacker gone. Bobby Wagner signs with the freaking Rams. You got a 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle who's a free agent who knows if he'll be back at 37. You got a 2-time Pro Bowl pass rusher, Carlos Dunlap, released. And gosh, you even have your 4-time All-Pro and former MVP, future Hall of Fame running back who got injured only after one game this season and probably not coming back to the team. Throw him in there too. Yeah.
It is the total stripped down to the studs type of rebuild that you're seeing here. Well, I guess not quite. I mean, they're maybe keeping the tile backsplash in the kitchen and then working around that. And
Poona Ford's a stud. Yeah, you're talking about tearing it down to the studs.
There you go.
Poona Ford, Quandre Diggs, DK, Tyler.
Jamal.
And Jamal. Yep, there you go.
Yep, studs. It's tough. It's tough to watch the, second I can't even say it today. Hawkpocalypse befall us. But look, this organization decided that they were choosing Pete Carroll. They were choosing another 3 to 4 years of Pete in his vision, him and John together. And I think they felt they needed to get back to their roots. And that was getting away from older, aging players, getting away from trying to load up for a year and really beginning to build from within, churn the roster, get some youthful guys in there that Pete connects with better. And this is the result. And you see Bobby leave. And I was with you, man. I was kind of watching the waiver wire being like, dude, is he going to come back? I'd really like it if he came back. How about if he came back for like 8? He can come back for 8. Like, come on, let's bring him back for 8. We can do that.
Right. That still puts him in the top 5 in the team, and it would have slotted him slightly behind Jamal for the season and slightly ahead of Shelby Harris.
Exactly. I was like, we could do that, right? Right? And the answer was no, because Pete and John are clearly moving on completely from the LOB era Seattle Seahawks, and they're doing it all differently. And it's going to be interesting to watch. It won't be boring. I can tell you that. It might be bad, but it won't be boring. And Bobby signing with the Rams, really bad, not boring.
It was the worst thing to happen to me the other day when, and not a lot of things happened to me, as, if this is the worst thing that happened to me on that particular day, was seeing Bobby Wagner suited up in the number 45 in Rams gear. Mm-hmm. That made that part of the day terrible.
Oh, yeah. That didn't, punch you in the gut a little bit when you saw it, but I don't know what to tell you. But a couple things that I said last night with Clinton on our little live show that we did.
Yeah. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, go check it out. Seahawkers Podcast YouTube page. We'll throw up a live show every once in a while. I'll do the replay. That'll be on the Field Goals feed. But if you want to be involved live, you can go to the YouTube page, subscribe, and get notified. Usually I try and put it out to getintheflock.com folks too. I think I forgot last night. There's so many I need to write this stuff down so that way everybody gets notified when I'm doing this.
I'm still all for intern.
I know.
I know. Yeah. Okay. But on that show yesterday, I basically said, hey, we all have practice at this. A future Hall of Famer, a future Ring of Honor guy.
We've gone through one Hawkpocalypse before.
Right. I mean, so now
we know when to board up the windows, when to, start stocking the pantry.
Yeah.
It's probably
close
too late
the shutters,
now, but
close the shutters to my heart when it comes to Bobby Wagner. Seeing him in that Rams jersey, it was like bizarro Bobby, like the Mario Wario thing. And I really do think that we should start calling this version of 45 on the Rams Bobby Magner, instead of Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, just like how Mario and Wario. Yeah, Magner.
Yeah, Magner. And I felt better with that. And honestly, because we've gone through this before here just recently, I mean, it's not like we've never gone through it. Somebody had commented on the YouTube channel last night that it was a kind of a gut punch to see Dave Craig go to KC. And yeah, I mean, I do vaguely remember that. I mean, I wasn't quite as big into football then as I have been since probably like 97 or so. But
I was probably 10 when that happened.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was aware that it had gone down. But that's about it. Now, since I have that practice, since I have seen Richard Sherman in a 49ers jersey and play well for a year or two, I'm prepared for this with Bobby. And the other part of me is that everything that has a beginning has an end. And this is where we're at. You got to come to peace with it. Bobby's time with the Seahawks, it's come to an end. And I've accepted that. Good for him for getting another bag. I'm excited for him. And
a mini bag.
That's a pretty good bag. I'd take 1/10 of his $10 million guaranteed and be pretty good about life. I'd be retired.
Right. But he's going to, for the salary that he was set to make, and I even hate to bring this up because it was the final year of a contract that wasn't guaranteed, but it was $20 million on the books with the Seahawks next year. That was money that he was never going to see unless he was still playing at the top of his game, which we all know, yes, by your comments, and I mean, by my eyeballs too, I know he wasn't at the top of his game that we've seen over the course of his career. Still pretty high, though.
Still pretty high. I think some of the comments are a little disrespectful. They all act like he became trash.
Right. Or that suggesting that Cody Barton was playing better than Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, Clinton had like some sort of fall down some stairs or something and it hit his head right before we went live yesterday because he made that claim as if that was some sort of truth. Cody Barton's a fine player and he might be 75% of today's Bobby, but that's not Bobby.
Barton may be in one aspect like coverage ability at that spot slightly better than Bobby was last season.
Right.
And okay, if you want to take out that one little sliver of the pie of everything that a middle linebacker does for your defense, then okay, if you want to give that piece of pie to Cody, that's fine. But there's so much more to it.
A lot more pie left to be had than Bobby has.
And Bobby was way better pie. So that's really kind of where I'm at.
So Cody Barton's like maybe a rhubarb pie and like Wags is like a pecan pie.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go pecan since it's nutty, but just Bobby
it's
apple pie.
It's just a delicious pie.
Bobby apple pie and
apple pie is I think kind of overrated. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't love apple pie.
Based on, if we're rating Bobby at the Hall of Fame level, then that would be, he would be slightly overrated with that regard in terms of his play, but still really, really good. I think apple's appropriate.
I might go pumpkin if that's your analogy right there.
Yeah. See, Cody was kind of where I was leaning with regard to pumpkin.
I love pumpkin pie.
I love it in certain situations, but for an all-around pie, it's never a go-to pie.
It's not a year-round pie.
Yeah.
It's not a full season
Thanksgiving, pumpkin pie, that's when it's good. That's the only time.
Gotcha. Okay. I didn't know you had seasonal taste buds, but that's good.
Of course.
Good for you. Okay.
Of course.
Yeah. But yeah, back to Bobby.
You're telling me that the seasonal taste buds don't exist, then why does eggnog not exist year round?
Well, I think that evolutionary speaking, that we as a species definitely should have seasonal taste buds because we used to eat seasonally, right? Like you had corn when it was in season. You had squash when it was in season. You had tomatoes when it was in season. Now, with all of the way that we grow food year round, we have all the food all the time. So we don't have as seasonal of taste buds.
We're spoiled. We're spoiled by our industrial farming culture.
Yes.
This
exactly.
podcast took a weird turn.
The agricultural farming industrial complex. There you go. That's where we landed. And Bobby's no part of that and no longer a part of the Seahawks. And I know that pisses you off to no end. You were seething pissed, man. Like I haven't seen you this feisty and pissy in a minute.
I was pissed.
I think since third grade.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, well, it has to do with the comments around people saying that Bobby's washed when, he's still got a couple good years left in him. It's the salary that he signed for that I think the Seahawks could have done. It's people acting like just already have moved on, which I haven't moved on yet. So seeing other people who have moved on, it still grates at me a little. And, I want to save the Bobby discussion a little bit. I want to go back to Russ because it was Russell Wilson. I couldn't quite bring myself to watch his press conference.
Haven't done it.
I didn't see. I'm kind of the same way as you. I wanted to put it off because it kind of like it felt like a Band-Aid that needed to be ripped off.
Okay.
And I finally did it. I listened to the Russell Wilson press conference in Denver. And I actually went into it trying to look for a bunch of clips that we could just crush him on. And I think
he ain't giving you that.
Well, I think there's some. That we could at least take the wrong way as fans now, and I'm going
to be extra salty about it and read the worst into it. I am.
Yeah. But the thing is I was one of the people that got a little bit caught up in the idea that he left by only tweeting 6 words. I can't even believe that this hasn't even been covered, at least legitimately from what I've seen. He spent 5 minutes at the start of his press conference in Denver, essentially saying his farewell and thanking everyone from Paul Allen to Seahawks fans. And so I think we should listen to it.
Okay.
There's another city that has meant a lot to me, meant the world to me over the past 10 years of my life, and that's Seattle. Seattle Seahawks have been everything to me. I was drafted on April 27th of 2012, and my dreams really started becoming true then. And there's really a few key people in that journey. First of all, obviously the late Paul Allen, who gave me the opportunity, who gave everybody there an opportunity to play the game. And he's done so much in the world. And obviously Jody too. And the two of them have meant the world to me over the past 10 years, my family, Sierra and I. It's meant a lot. Obviously Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll was a coach that always chewing his bubble gum, always believed in the fourth quarter comebacks with me. A guy that I always believed in too as well. And we've had amazing moments, amazing conversations, amazing days together, just so many amazing times. And Pete, obviously, he's a Hall of Fame coach in my opinion. And he's been an amazing person along the way with me. And then there's obviously John Schneider, who's the guy when I was playing at University of Wisconsin, the Big Ten. He was chopping it up in the bar with my brother after we won and beat Michigan State. And he was chopping it up with my brother in the bar and talking about how he would one day maybe want me to be his quarterback. And so those two guys have meant the world to me. And then I have so many amazing other people, obviously coaches along the way that have meant the world to me. From offensive coordinators like Bevel and Shoddy to obviously Shane Waldron, who I think is an amazing mind. The quarterback room. I remember Coach Tater, he taught me about the daisy chain of life. He taught me about how to take every day and simplify the game. And that was a beautiful thing for me. So many other great people along the way. I have a long list that I could go through in terms of coaches, but our rooms where we'd have our prayer sessions and just talk about life, not just the game plan, but talk about life. Dave Canales, Austin Davis, a lot of other people, the quarterbacks I've played with. I know Geno Smith, you meant a lot to me along the way, so many others. But anyways, I think that room was always a special room. And it was always because it was about the work and about people. And I think that we always took dedication to that. But I also have had some amazing teammates too as well. I think about the first day I ever walked into and I was first drafted, we had the rookie symposium. And the first thing they do is they walk onto stage and they tell you, what does the NFL stand for? And we're like, National Football League? And we're all looking left and right. And no, it's not for long. And I remember Robert Turbin and I being roommates and talking about how one day we were going to break records and one day we were going to do special things and win a Super Bowl and maybe hopefully more. To other amazing teammates like DK Metcalf, who I think is one of the best in the game, but one of my best friends. I think about just obviously the stuff on the field, but also the stuff behind the scenes where, we're sitting in my office and just chopping up, laughing him, and talking life and everything else. To Tyler Lockett, the amazing toe tap catches and the amazing things he's done along the journey, and just how, he's really a poet along the way too. So amazing things that he's done. To other great friends that I've played with, whether for the short or long, guys like Jimmy Graham, that meant a lot to me. In difficult times, and he really meant a lot to me along the way too. And then there's so many other guys like Dwayne Brown. I think he's one of the best competitors I've ever gotten to play with. One of the greatest guys I've ever been around. You're talking about people standing in the locker room long, being there late. That guy would be there, every day, every moment, to the last minute, to the last hour. And I love playing with him. And there's so many other guys along the way. It's all the Super Bowl team that I was able to play with, and everything else, those guys that would compete at the highest level. And that's how you learned how to practice. That's how you learn how to play at the highest level. And, so those guys too, there's a long list of those guys as well. But then I also think about the people in the building, that I've been able to, be with every day, the people that go unseen, EK, one of the best equipment managers in all of sports, but one of the best people you could ever meet, that helped me from day one. To other people like Mo Kelly, who was the heart and soul of that building, the guy who keeps people together, who keeps believing in the best things. To the trainers, obviously Strick and Sam, those guys, when you're dinged up and you got to play and you're going no matter what it takes because you want to do whatever it takes to win. Those guys helping you out. To the strength staff as well. To so many other people that I've been along the journey, Danny and Ivan and Coach Carlisle, and just people that I've been around. I think this is the city of Seattle, obviously, the 12s, because, without you guys, it would be tough. But I think the 12s have meant a lot to me along the way because of the journey. And, and then ultimately, all the kids we got to see, Sierra's sitting up here in the front, but, our foundation with Why Not You Foundation, all the kids we were able to see and impact in that community really meant the world to us every day.
Yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Go catfish yourself. For reals. Like, I listened to all of that and how great it was in Seattle, but couldn't wait to get the catfish out. Seriously, go catfish yourself. I'm still very much in the bitter X stage of the Russ thing. This bothers me a lot more than the Bobby end of things, but fine, whatever. Nice words. He basically, it's not you, it's me. Like that, he did that to us. He just gave you the "it's not you, it's me" routine.
Yeah, there were a lot of nice things said, but you're right. That's him trying to let us down, and especially when I hear, it's gross listening to some of these other comments. Like, Russ wants you to know there was only one reason why he came to the Denver Broncos.
I came here for one reason. And that's to win. And that's what I believe in. So every day, what you're going to get from me is that mentality. You're going to get that juice. You're going to get that energy. You're going to get that focus. And we're going to do it together. All the guys back there, we're going to do it together. That's what it takes. But we're here for one thing, and it's to win. It's to win at the highest level often. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the journey. And Broncos country, let's ride.
Oh, can we talk about the phrase "let's ride" for a second?
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, this is going to be a true thing. It's something we're going to look back on in 20 years. And everybody's going to be like, holy smokes, I can't believe that there is a curse that came out of Russell Wilson being traded to the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos have initiated a curse upon themselves, much like the Red Sox did when they got rid of Babe Ruth, or however the curse came about for the Cubs. They're
just bad for a really long time.
But I mean, there was those very famous curses, right? And they all had their little catchphrases. Well, with the stadium lighting on fire and the football gods letting us know this is the beginning of their curse, it will forever and always be known as the Let's Ride curse. And it started this year. They poached our franchise quarterback and made him a turncoat, took him to Denver, and it started a curse on their house forever. The Let's Ride curse. That's what we're calling it. And this is happening.
The Let's Ride curse. You heard it here. This is where it started.
Yeah.
Let's ride.
Curse. Not only that, his first answer, he's like, oh, and all those guys that I won a Super Bowl with. Not one mention of Sherm, Earl, Cam, Bobby, KJ. Not one mention of any of those defensive guys.
For a guy who mentions everybody, that does seem a little strange that he would leave out the entire defense, which is the reason why that Super Bowl team was so great.
Exactly. Like, I wasn't like completely actively avoiding all of the Russell Wilson talk in Denver since he's gotten to Denver, but I was semi-actively avoiding it. Like, if I saw it, I scrolled past. I didn't click. It's a lot like, an X on your Facebook feed. It's like, I don't click on her page, but if it's, pops up, 5 years later that she's selling her house and moving in with her new boyfriend, like, okay, like, there it is. All right, go catfish yourself a little bit, but all right. Like, I hope you're happy. I just feel the exact same way about Russ right now.
And this is what this episode's going to be. It is us getting into the new Facebook pages for Bobby and Russ and dealing with it and getting it out of our system and then moving on. That is part of the Hawkpocalypse that we have to go through to get to the other side. For at least I know for me.
Like I said, I think our difference is the Russ thing hit me a little more close to home.
Bobby hit me.
And Bobby hit you. To me, it was just more quarterbacks directly translate into wins a little more easily. And knowing that you're moving on from a guy who's a 9-win dude no matter what every year, like, that hurts. Well, he's not going to be a 9-win guy every year from now on because of the Let's Ride curse. So we'll see what befalls the Denver Donkeys from here on out.
Have you ever heard what Coach Hackett sounds like? Like, have you ever listened to him? Oh my gosh. I am pleased to announce that I think with him as head coach, listen to this and tell me that this does not sound like a coach that is going to flame out with Russell Wilson as his quarterback.
Gosh, I don't know when I actually realized it was happening. I mean, it's one of those things you hear about it, but until it's actually done is when you're actually going to kind of believe in it. But when his name was brought up, I mean, we've gone against each other a bunch of times. And I mean, the fact is, when you're going against Russell Wilson, I mean, game is never over. I mean, I think we had one game we were talking about it. I think it was a touchdown. The next play was another touchdown. Another play was another touchdown and went back and forth. So, I mean, he's electric. And I mean, so whenever his name is mentioned to anybody across this league, I mean, it puts fear into people. And so now to have the opportunity to be able to work with him and be with him and support him, I mean, it makes everybody excited. It makes me excited. It makes, the players excited. I mean, this is unbelievable. And it's true excitement to be able to work with a guy like this, a guy that's won a Super Bowl, a guy that has been so unbelievably successful. And the idea now is just make it even better.
So to me, I know he'll be super excited, every day, as you can tell.
Facts.
I'll definitely be excited, but I'll be a little bit more neutral. That's for sure. But when we get in the end zone, we'll celebrate. And so we plan on getting in the end zone quite often.
So when Hackett kisses ass, does he take like the Harry Connick Jr. from Independence Day approach to kissing ass? Does he get on one knee so it puts the ass like right there in front of his face? And like, does he go full lips? Is it just a smooch or is it a full wet mouth kiss?
It's full wet mouth.
Like it seemed like a full wet mouth kiss of Russell Wilson's ass. And then Russ being like, yeah, he's going to be excited about me. Oh, and just to get you back in your place for a second, because I'm the man now, I might be a little more neutral about it. It's just, wow. Like, what? I mean, is there any, he's got to be the biggest whipping boy in the league right now, right?
Oh my gosh, that was my takeaway from this, was that Russell Wilson, celebrity quarterback, just found one of his biggest fans out there and now has his fan running the team, and he's going to run it exactly the way Russell Wilson wants.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought I heard a Hackett quote being like something about the offense. Well, it's all going to be whatever Russ wants, basically. They're going full Peyton Manning with this.
But I don't think Russ is Peyton Manning.
Well, obviously not. His name is Russell Wilson. The other guy's name is
totally
Peyton
different.
Manning. Yeah. But no, they do play the game very differently. If it is going to be just what Russ wants, it's going to be very interesting to see what the offense looks like then this next season for them.
Right. Because we're so used to watching some of the things that, I mean, we've seen very consistent patterns out of Russell Wilson, what he does best and what he really doesn't do or avoids. Right. And to see whether or not he's actually able to do those things, like check it down to a wide receiver in the middle of the field or throw a screen pass, are those things that now he's suddenly going to do? So is it a Seahawks issue or a Russell Wilson issue? And it's going to tell us a lot. And I tend to think that it's a Russell Wilson issue more so than a Seahawks issue.
3 offensive coordinators, all the same issues year in and year out. Like that feels like a Russ problem at that point.
When you get to the end of the season and you're only running scribble plays for 50% of the offense with 3 different offensive coordinators, it tells you something.
3rd and 2, holding the ball for 15 seconds looking for kill shots.
Rather than taking the check down and moving on and getting a new set of downs.
Exactly. So I think Broncos fans, they're obviously super fired up right now. And I get it.
Yeah. I had to deal with my wife's uncle at a birthday party this last week. It wasn't fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it should have been a little fun. You should have just started pointing out all those things you just talked about. Be like, I hope the Chargers, Raiders, and Chiefs don't figure out that all they have to do is play too high. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do at that point.
Well, I tried that. And then he said, well, just enjoy Drew Lock.
Well, I don't have to enjoy Drew Lock because he's just a fill-in dude for a year. And who knows? Can you imagine a world in which the Let's Ride curse comes fully at the Broncos right here in season 1? And by the end of the year, you look at Drew's play and Russ's play and you're like, Drew might have had a better year. Like there's a world in which that could happen. I'm not saying it's a likely world. I get that, but I'd kind of like to see it, wouldn't you?
Well, that part of it doesn't matter to me. If I look at our 2023 draft order and we have a Denver Broncos top 10 pick, then that would be what excites me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, that's going to be a consequence of the Let's Ride curse for the Broncos.
Yes.
So that'll be fun.
So I was listening for certain things. I was surprised by the Coach Hackett thing as much of a Russell Wilson fanboy as he sounded. That was a surprise to me. The one part that I wanted to listen for, though, is just the response over, how Russ responded to the entire situation. So here was his answer on whether or not Russell Wilson, initiated this move to the Broncos.
Yeah, I did initiate it. It was definitely mutual along the way. There's definitely been a lot of conversations. It hasn't been I initiated anything, but it is what it is. I'm happy to be here. That's all I know. Obviously, I'm happy about the 10 years I've had, but I think that, it's, we'll have to read about it later. We'll have some fun maybe with my book one day. We'll have some good stories.
Read my book. Read my future book for all of the answers of what happened and what went down.
Whatever. Screw him right now. In a football sense, I hope him and his lovely wife and all his kids and everything are happy and healthy and all that. This is sports hate. I want to make sure that we put that out there each and every time. This is sports hate. It's irrational, tribal, ridiculous, nonsensical sports hate. That's it. And I hope he can't hit a dude further than 3 yards away from him for the next 3 years of his career.
Yeah, well, at least the next year, so we get the benefit of the draft pick.
3 years.
3 years, because that's the number that he wears. It's too bad that he couldn't have, I don't know, thrown on the number 13 or something weird, so it just how he'd look off in a Broncos uniform, too.
Well, you're mad that Bobby went to 45.
Well, I'm mad because I feel like it's disrespectful on behalf of the Rams because they have a 54. There's a lot of reasons why it's bothersome to me. But the one thing about closing out this Russell Wilson press conference,
Mm-hmm.
it took an unexpected dark turn for me at the end. This is,
Oh,
we're used to hearing certain things from Russ, and you could almost, like, I have a clip of, like, if we wanted to play a game of how many Broncos players that he already is on a naming basis with, like, he gave his answer and listed almost every wide receiver, every running back, every starting offensive lineman. Like, that answer was in his question and response with reporters.
did he go way back? Did he throw in an Ed McCaffrey reference or a Vincent Jackson reference somewhere in there?
Well, he talked about former quarterbacks, John Elway, Peyton Manning. He did, but he mostly stuck to the current roster. He even threw in some Colorado Rockies players in one of his answers.
Wow.
Throwing out like a Todd Helton because he was drafted by the Rockies, and so he had to be sure and bring that up.
Yeah, and was pretty loyal to the Rockies for the majority of his career. Good reference, Russ. Good reference. You backstabber.
But at the end, I heard something from Russ, an answer that I've never heard from him, and it was kind of on the dark side.
Every time I lace up my cleats, how I always look at it is it could be my last day. I never know. You never know. And so if every time I walk on the stadium and I lace up my cleats and I walk onto a visiting field or home field, what I always say to myself as I'm walking the field is this will be the last time somebody sees me. This could be the last time somebody sees me play. And how do I want them to remember me playing?
I think we got to be careful with this curse thing, dude.
Don't
You
care.
might be onto it.
Yeah, I know I'm onto it. And
Did you hear
I'm telling
him?
you-
Russ might be onto it.
Yeah, he knows he's on very borrowed time. I think the finger thing really did like put it into perspective from him that it can just be one moment and then it's all taken away. And I mean, I'm not rooting for him to get injured or nothing. I'm just rooting for him to struggle under the Let's Ride curse.
Well, you want your team's decision to be the correct one, that it was time to move on from Russ. The only reason why he was good was because he was with Pete Carroll. They were maximizing his potential. He was the only coach that knew how to get that out of him. And now that he's going to some fanboy coach in Denver, it's going to totally ruin him. And he's going to look like a low-level Sam Darnold type quarterback out there.
Absolutely. Who maybe gets hurt, but not injured. You know what I mean? Like, gets his shoulder banged up a little bit and, he can still go out there and play. It's not career ending. He can sleep at night without pain, but he just can't throw the football the way that he normally does because, Let's Ride curse. Like, those are the types of things that I'm rooting for right there. And I'm going to speak this catfish directly into existence. You got catfish. Damn right I am.
Man, I hope I don't piss you off and that we go through some podcast breakup, because this is going to be miserable for me if this ever turns south between the two of us.
I don't know. We got a good track record since kindergarten. I think we're good.
As long as it's not the Bobby Wagner situation that breaks us up. Because when I listen to Russ, when I listen to Bobby, Russ to me sounds like a guy who was ready to move on. He thought he'd be better off without us. I didn't get that sense listening to Bobby. Does this sound like Bobby Wagner wanted to be playing anywhere else than playing in Seattle?
Obviously, I never thought I was going to leave Seattle. I always wanted to be in Seattle. But as soon as they let me go, you had to kind of separate the emotions of a player and an agent. I can be frustrated as a player, but at the end of the day, I had a job to do to try to figure out, where my next home was going to be. And so I kind of just switched mindsets. I feel like I do a pretty good job of kind of being two different people, one as a player, one as an agent. So, a player kind of took it personally, but the agent just went to work. And so I just, started calling teams and reaching out to teams. I think a lot of teams didn't know that I represented myself. So, I got in contact with teams and made sure they knew that I was the person they was going to reach out to directly. And, just kind of started the process from there. It was definitely stressful because, like I said, you've been in a place for 10 years. And there was this idea that you didn't think that you were going to leave. And unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. But, I ended up in a great place, closer to home. And, I'm excited.
So I listened to that. And one of the things that I think also upsets me is I think Bobby should have been given an opportunity to restructure his contract. And when I hear that answer, if he was starting to make calls after he was released and letting teams know that they had to deal with him, I don't think he was given an option for a restructured contract, because then the conversation would have either been, well, we're going to release you so that way you can shop around because he doesn't have an agent, so this way you can do it in the right way. Or maybe he would have already been, doing that work, trying to find out about what types of offers he could get from other teams.
Yeah, it definitely was a different tone and tenor than Russ's presser. I do think Bobby wanted to complete his career there. And I can understand your sore feelings over it because it does kind of suck. Like, I would have loved to have seen him retire as Seahawk. I really would. But the reality of the situation is that, especially today's NFL, let alone the history of the NFL, the number of players that begin and end their career after a lengthy career in one place, I mean, it's almost impossible that that's going to happen.
There's special guys that I feel like you could make accommodations for. And yeah, we know, well, with quarterbacks, it's tough because it seems like always they want to play it out as long as they can. And so few people are like Tom Brady and can play until they're 45. I mean, Joe Montana, he took the Chiefs to the playoffs with after he left San Francisco, but they already had a backup quarterback. They were in that kind of situation, much like, Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay and Brett Favre. Like they were teams that were ready to move on. They had a guy behind him. And if you take that over to the defense with Bobby Wagner, I don't feel like there's a guy that is behind Bobby that Bobby is holding back in some way. And even still, I don't think that they're in that position now that Russ has left, that you are competing for the kind of titles that that you would maybe say, oh, well, Bobby's going to want too much money, so you can take that money, you can use it in other ways, and you can make the team better. If you had Russell Wilson still on the team, can you take that money and invest it toward the offensive line, and you can deal with that difference between Cody Barton and Bobby Wagner? Like that I could understand more, but now that the team has moved on, I feel like, yeah, you have this opportunity with Bobby to allow him to play out his career. You restructure his deal, and because what do you have to play for? If this is what Bobby wants, if he doesn't want to move on, and yeah, I know a lot of us say, oh, well, now he'll at least have an opportunity to play for a Super Bowl. Sure, that might have been nice for him ultimately if he goes on and does something like that. But if he wanted to stay, how do you not give him that option?
We actually see this completely differently. Like, I see it through the exact opposite lens. If Russ had stayed and we were a couple players away from reloading and going after it again, then yes, you keep Bobby Wagner and you keep him until the wheels fall off. Absolutely. Because if you're gunning for it over the next couple of years, then yeah, I'll take 90% Bobby Wagner over those next couple of years to try to win the title. But if I'm tearing it down to the studs and trying to get draft picks, trying to cycle through dudes, see what young guys we can hit on, unknowns, you say, well, there's nobody that's on the roster right now that is worthy of taking over Bobby's spot. And that may be true, but do we know that's going to be the case after this draft? Are we going to know that that's the case after next year's offseason? Like, we don't. They need to start cycling through guys and seeing who they can find for the future for the next 5 years. I'm much more willing to move on from Bobby in the situation we are now than if we were still gunning for the playoffs over the next couple of years with Russ at the helm, or if they had traded for like some other high level quarterback in the Russ trade. But that's not what happened. And see, to me, it seems like you kind of see it vice versa. You're with the rebuild, then who cares? Just give them the money and keep them on the team. And I'm like, well, if you're rebuilding, you might as well be rebuilding.
I could understand that argument a little bit more if I didn't see Bobby signing, what's essentially, and we can get into all the contract details of it for those people who say, oh, well, how can the Rams even afford a $50 million 5-year deal for Bobby Wagner? For one, it's $10 million guaranteed for Bobby next year. And think about that idea of allowing room for young guys to come up. Well, then why are you paying Al Woods $3.5 million to come back next year? Why are you paying Quentin Jefferson?
This still isn't This still isn't an either or proposition, Brandon.
No, I'm saying that if you're moving on from older players to make room for younger dudes, then why are you filling the roster with these older veteran players, much like Bobby Wagner, but not as good, and paying them about half as much as what Bobby's making for guys who never meant as much to your franchise as Bobby Wagner?
Okay, so more like a third as much. And so you can have 3, 4, 5 of those dudes. Like $10 million for Bobby this year is a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
$10 million guaranteed for this year. In terms of a cap hit for the Rams. Now, you want to get into what the Rams are actually under their salary cap paying Bobby Wagner this year? It's a $2.5 million cap hit. Bobby Wagner's dead money from his signing bonus from the last contract that he signed with Seattle is bigger than the cap hit that the Rams are taking for taking on Bobby Wagner's contract, because he's getting essentially $10 million guaranteed, and they're taking that money, the guaranteed money, and spreading it out over the quote unquote 5-year contract. And so, yes, it's a 5-year, $50 million contract, but he gets $10 million of all his guaranteed money this year. And then they have the option of bringing him back for $7.5 million next year. And then none of the money beyond that is guaranteed at all. So it's pretty much a 2-year deal, and it could just be a 1-year, $10 million deal for Bobby, to where the Rams can spread out that money over 5 years.
Absolutely. They can rob from their future salary cap to pay Bobby Wagner for this year. That's what they've done.
That's what
with
they've
this
done.
deal. Now, let me ask you this, Brandon. If in your household or in your city or in your state or even in your federal government, do you want people robbing from Peter to pay Paul? Do you want your current regime to be stealing from future generations to pay for your excess today? Is that how you want your finances ran in your life? Because I certainly don't. And I certainly don't want it ran that way on my football team either. I would much rather not have a Bobby cap hit 5 years from now, when he's at that point. I think we can all agree he will be washed by that point.
Those numbers that far out are irrelevant. And
they're not irrelevant because that cap hit will be taken by the Rams.
Well, but when Bobby leaves, then they'll take the cap hit. If he's still, it's really weird of how it's structured and how they have to move around the money.
But the long story short is that their future cap is going to take a hit for their
the $10 million that they're paying Bobby. They'll eventually have to pay it, even though it's 2.5 is what it counts under the books this year. Yes,
I don't like that. I think that's unsound financial planning, and I think they're going to pay for it.
Well, I wish they would have paid for it this year when they had Jared Goff under contract for 13% of their salary cap and he was playing for the Lions, or while Todd Gurley was still making $9 million under their salary cap this year. They seem to manage that just fine in LA.
True. That's an excellent point. It's an excellent point. Honestly, I guess if you're mad about this, blame the freaking Rams because of the way that they're changing the league with the ramification of the way the cap and free agency and just being a mercenary team and just being one of the big market teams that can spend extra money. Like the cap seems to not be evening out the playing field the same way that it has over the last 20 years of the NFL. Because parity's been probably the best thing of the NFL over the last 20 years. And we're starting to lose that.
As much as I'd like to blame the Rams for everything that bothers me about Bobby Wagner leaving the Seahawks, there's no way that I can blame them for how he left Seattle, because his response that he had to learn about his release indirectly rather than directly from Pete and John, it still upsets me. When I heard about it initially, that he was bothered by how this came down, he's still bothered by how it came down, and I can't blame him, and I can't blame the Rams.
Personally, I think after 10 years, I think it's just a simple communication. I don't think it had to be that difficult. I watched their interview and I saw the apology. I'm grateful, but when they said it was because I represented myself, I feel like that part was weak. I don't feel like me representing myself whether I had an agent or whether I didn't have an agent, I still felt like that was a conversation that they could have had. That's kind of where I stand with it. I'm not going to dwell on it. It's changed. They already moved on. I moved on. And so it is what it is at this point. I just think that, after 10 years, it could have been a simple conversation, even if they wanted to go in a different direction. I don't think me representing myself play any part on my end. It's more of their end. Maybe they didn't want to do it. Maybe they want to, kind of burn that bridge. But I feel like through this process and last process, I've shown the capability of handling tough conversations. We had tough conversations throughout my 10-year career there. So, it's easy to just pick up a phone and call. I shouldn't have had to find out later. I found out. But, like I said, it is what it is. I ended up in a great place. And now I'm working on getting black jerseys here.
I can tell you right now, Brandon, even after listening to that, I can still blame the Rams in my heart. I do. And catfish the Rams. Catfish them forever. Like, I can't stand them. Now, with that said, there is definitely a disconnect between Bobby and John in terms of the whole representing yourself thing and a comfort level in that I don't know that they ever saw eye to eye on. I think Bobby, and rightfully so, was representing himself and did a good job of it and saved himself a bunch of money by doing it. And I don't blame him at all for that, but it is super unusual. And I think John really didn't know how to handle it. I really think it was extra difficult for him. Now, could he be a big boy and figure it out? I think so. And did they screw up? You bet your ass they did. Like, Bobby didn't deserve that. Now, with all of that said, that was how long ago now? 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm over it. Moving on. Yeah.
You can be over it if you want. It sounds like Bobby's not over it. And you know what's your saying? Once is a trend, 2 times how
Once
does it go?
a trend, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a you problem.
Okay. Russell Okung didn't have an agent.
Yep.
Ends up going to another team.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Sherman doesn't have an agent. Ends up going to another team. Bobby Wagner, this is your 3rd time you've dealt with 2 players who are agent free, and you haven't yet figured it out how to release a guy who is a future Hall of Famer. You haven't figured that out after 3 tries. It's inexcusable to me.
That's a fair criticism. It really is. I don't know how else you would paint it. I guess it just doesn't get my hackles up the same way that it does yours. I mean, this is the stuff when it comes down to football that gets on the soap opera, kind of end of things that I really just have a hard time wrapping my hands around. Like,
it's not so much of a soap opera though as being good business. I feel like, with especially guys who have meant a lot to the franchise. I think that these are personal relationship type issues that I see it as a problem. If Richard Sherman leaves and he still holds some, harbor of ill will to the franchise of how it went down. I mean, Sherman's probably held on to it a little bit longer than he should, but because there is this understanding that it's a business, how can you not ultimately work out a way to where there's a mutual respect of how to close things out when it's time for the franchise to move on and maybe the player's not ready? But I feel like these are things that you have a lot of experience with that you should be able to figure it out.
So do you hold Bill Belichick as accountable for the way that he is kind of unceremoniously moved on from all-time greats throughout his career as you do John? I mean, think about it, going back through time, whether it's been Tom Brady or Willie McGinnis or Lawyer Malloy or Drew Bledsoe. I mean, he's kind of just stabbed some dudes right in the back and gotten them right out of town. And I haven't heard one whimper along the way about any of that.
It makes me think that he's come up with a way to do it the right way. If they aren't still...
Sure, this is what it sounds like.
No, you would hear it from the players, though.
Really?
Don't you think?
I don't.
Then why are we hearing from the players with this regard in regard to the
very
Seahawks?
Very different cultures.
But you're
Like,
out of the culture at the end.
Okay. You tell me that Teddy Bruschi, when he's on TV, is out of the culture. You tell me that, Julian Edelman is now out of the culture now that he's no longer a Patriot. Give me a freaking break, man. It is like a cult over there. It really is. Where Pete is definitely more free form and let dudes speak their minds and all that stuff. Bill drills that into their head, the whole keep it in house thing.
Even after they leave, they can't get it out.
They can't seem to. Think about that.
I did hear from Bobby, though, that because he was asked by Brady Henderson of ESPN. He was on the call for his Rams press conference, and he said, can the relationship be mended eventually, or is there going to be an ongoing issue because of what went down?
I have no hatred towards Seattle. I have no hatred towards the Seahawks. I think Pete, John, Jody, all those guys, they're amazing. They treated me well while I was there. So, like I said, I have no hate in my heart. Did I not appreciate how to handle that? I text them. I let them know that I didn't appreciate how I handled it. So it is what it is. It's not something that I'm going to sit here and use as motivation. Regardless whether I play somewhere else or play there, I'm a motivated person. I don't need extra motivation, but that game in Seattle will definitely be interesting for sure.
It's not going to motivate me, but I'm going to make sure that that's interesting.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Hey, that does paint a picture of, all right, man, I'm going to play out my string here in LA and, come back, retire a Seahawk, call it good.
It feels that way. And you heard him afterward. Well, he put it out there. He said, I do think that 54 is a number that shouldn't be worn in Seattle again.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Oh, of course. That's one that should be up in the rafters.
100%. I mean, there's zero debate on that.
The only debate is that he didn't finish his career, but obviously it wasn't up to him. So I'm not holding that against him.
Yeah, just this whole idea of starting and finishing a long ass career in the NFL on one team, like that's some big thing. That's a qualifier for something like retiring somebody's number and putting them in the Ring of Honor. It just doesn't happen, guys. It just doesn't happen.
I wanted Bobby to be like Largent, like Walter Jones, like Cortez Kennedy. I wanted him to be one of those guys. And that's part of the reason why I'm upset. I think he could have been one of those players.
Well, then, you could blame Bobby a little bit too. When they released him, he could have just retired.
That's true.
He didn't have to play.
It's true. He could have just retired. Just retire to your home in Seattle, Bobby. It's time. Forced retirement.
Yeah.
You have a good point there. That's one solid point that you've made that's helped me feel a little bit better. Bobby Wagner did have the option to retire, and instead he went to the freaking Rams. That turncoat.
Yeah. I think you screwed up what you said back there just a minute ago. That was one of my good points I've made about this.
That was the only good point that you made on this entire show.
I you keep getting it wrong. Try it again.
Sometimes you make good points. This was one of them, and we're moving on.
There we go. All right.
Mark Britton emails in, says, I'm sick to my stomach. He has to be furious at the Seahawks, right? I mean, he could have gone to Baltimore or really any other team, even to the Cowboys. I don't know if I can watch Seahawks Rams this year. If we're going to lean into this tank, we better and lean into it. Rams have the playbook this year, too. Now getting ready for the beatdown this year. Go Blitz?
Go Blitz. It's going to be a tough one, man. It's going to be a tough year. And we just got to suck it up and take it. They can't all be winners, And in some ways, rolling into the Rams and the Niners game and the Cards game this year, all 6 of them, it was going to be a little easier to swallow the L because I expect to lose. It's kind of like losing to the Rams these last 3 years as much as we have. That was much harder to take because I'm looking at it, I'm like, we should win this game. And oftentimes we should have won those games, but it just didn't happen. So now that I think that, we have no business winning those games, it's going to be a little easier for me to take.
Well, we'll still have our 2 wins over the 49ers that we can celebrate each year. So that'll be nice.
If we do, They have to get rid of Shanahan.
I can't wait. I can't wait to beat the 49ers with Drew Lock or Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield or Gardner Minshew, whoever it is. I just can't wait.
One of the rookies, yeah.
Executive producer Dustin Mock writes in, and this has to deal with a little bit of us as fans that I think Dustin was maybe trying to get a little bit off his chest here. Says, Sherm is cut and goes to the Niners, and suddenly he's a petty ass who was made by Pete Carroll. Russ leaves, suddenly he's a piece of ass traitor, and he sucks and held Pete and John back.
Yeah.
Bob is cut and goes to the Rams, and suddenly he's an over-the-hill has-been who we are, quote-unquote, overpaying out of respect, and the Rams are insane for giving him less than we gave Nwosu, which was an excellent move, though 5 years for Bobby seems like a long commitment. Sometimes our fan base feels like weird religious Ferberus zealots turning on anyone who leaves the church. They've forgotten that Ken Norton hung Brooks and Bobby out to dry for the last 2 years, expecting them to cover anyone crossing in the middle of the field. Sorry, a linebacker struggles to cover Cooper Kupp, but it's a little optimistic to expect Bob to come out and be anything less than incredible year one. From Dustin.
Dustin is not wrong. Look, a lot of this comes from the feels, right? And you do have to ask yourself at some point, like, are you more loyal to the team or to individual players? So there's a part of that.
Yeah.
Also, too, like, yeah, for me, this is where I put all of my irrational, tribal, rah-rah team spirit into. Like, I don't put it into politics because that's dumb. I don't put it into all sorts of other stuff like that. Like all the real world things that actually affect your life. I put it all here, and then I can be a rational human there. Yeah. And so, yeah, Russ the traitor turncoat. Yeah, freaking Sherm the ingrate. Like,
Bobby was washed up.
Yeah, I can't get on board with that because he just wasn't. But
they all belong in the same family, though.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to cling to, well, it's just like, I mean, if you start following politics enough, you pick up on those little things too, the things that have really small flakes of truth to them, and they just hammer that point, that small flake of truth, and point to that as that's the worst thing possible. And that's what's happening in sports. Although I would argue that I think it belongs more in sports.
That's exactly where it belongs, because in the real world, on real political subjects and all that, if you are hammering home not just a half truth, like a 10th truth, you're doing a disservice to the world and to your country. Whereas, in sports, like I can hammer home the 10th truth that Russell Wilson is a backstabbing traitor, and it really doesn't matter.
Right. Being dishonest about that really does not have any kind of consequence.
Yeah, dishonest, delusional, however you want to put it. It's all true. I mean, that's exactly how it is. Because I know there are people listening to this podcast being like, God, these freaking homers, what is wrong with them? How much Kool-Aid did they chug before they did this podcast? They're like, how quickly they would turn the knives on some of their all-time great players. And it's like, yeah, this is the man opera that I pay attention to. And irrational feelings. All right here.
Well, part of the problem that I have, though, is I still see people out there who are Seahawks fans that are already doing this to DK Metcalf, who is still on the team,
oh my God,
as if he is about to move on, saying, oh, well, he's such a diva. We don't pay a diva more than $25 million. He drops too many footballs. He doesn't run all his routes all that well. He's a mediocre at best wide receiver. Maybe they don't say that, but they come up with all these, 10th truths with regard to DK as to why it's time to move on and trade him when he hasn't even moved on.
Right. I guess maybe if you're really just trying to tear it all down, that's what you do. I don't really see the big motivation to get rid of DK. And then you saw reports. You never know how true or not true these things are. But apparently the Jets had offered the 10th pick, or our pick, back to us for DK, and we said no.
This is where the wording is really important, because the report that initially came out was that the Jets, quote unquote, were going to offer the 10th pick, but they got shut down. And then another report came out that said, Well, there's no truth to the idea that we offered the 10th overall pick. No, because the initial report was that you were going to offer it. And they come out and said, well, there's no truth. We never offered it. So, yeah, there's a little bit of half-truth in there that was reported on that they would have offered it, essentially. But the Seahawks weren't taking offers, so it never got offered.
Semantics, I suppose. Yeah, but that's an interesting way to parse that. I didn't dive deep enough into it to really kind of get into the weeds there. But, yeah, I mean, maybe you're trying to preemptively turn your back on DK. So it doesn't feel so bad when they trade him. If that's
I can understand that,
happen.
Though, right?
No, I get it. I get it.
I mean, you've had to deal with Russ. You've had to deal with Bobby. Like, start dealing with this now before that pain arrives.
Right. Now, if they did Tyler that way, that would hurt me, I think, a lot more than DK at this point. But it's interesting. I have no real burning desire to move on from DK. I don't know that there's a lot of DK replacement level guys in the draft or out there. They just don't come around. That size, that speed, with that ability, that work ethic, all that. You know, I had mentioned on one of the YouTube little podcasts that we did that, and then also DK does good things from the community. And there was actually a hilarious comment that got added in there about, give me a break. What does he bring to the community? Banging TikTok girls, and it's like, okay, fair.
And he eats a ton of candy. Did you hear that in the podcast that he did with Kevin Garnett?
I did. And, when I heard that, it made me extremely angry. He gets Batman abs and he eats like 7 bags of Sour Patch Kids a day or whatever it is that he's choking down.
Catfish!
You, man.
It's bullshit.
Catfish!
I smell a donut and put on 2 pounds. Then what a joke.
It is not fair.
No.
And I think it would be fair, though, if he were to get a blockbuster type contract for his second deal. NFL on CBS put this out. DK Metcalf's first 3 seasons, 3,170 receiving yards, 29 receiving touchdowns. There's only 4 other players to hit those numbers in their first 3 seasons in the last 40 years, which means you can go back 100 years because they weren't throwing the ball as much as they were now more than 40 years ago. So the 4 names in NFL history to reach those numbers: Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, AJ Green, Odell Beckham Jr.
Those guys were pretty good, yeah?
It's a pretty good list of 4 names.
Yeah. I definitely, I don't know. It just seems unlikely to me that the Seahawks will move on from DK right now, given that he is such a unique player. And that's something you hear Pete and John talk about all the time. Just that his skill set, his size, everything is so unique. I don't see them moving on at this point in time. And then I hear people poo-pooing the money. Well, you can't pay $24 million a year for a receiver and a run first offense or whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. $24 million is outrageous. And look, we all as fans fall into this trap offseason after offseason. Some dude gets paid what seems like a ridiculous amount of money. And in 3 years, we're all like, oh, right, well, the cap went up and now he's the 10th highest paid receiver in the league. That seems pretty fair. It's been a reasonable deal. Just that first year is going to seem outrageous. It always does. And if you're mad about that, again, blame the rest of the league handing out wide receiver contracts like freaking DK's candy. Like, it's crazy.
Christian Kirk getting $18 million a year. Blame the Jaguars.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Shad Khan.
Can you guess, or have I already given it away, who the number 1 cap hit is for Seattle currently on the roster?
Jamal?
Nope. He's number 3.
Okay.
We'll play Family Feud. Ding, number 3. You get you get the top 5.
Okay. Shoot, from there, what has it got to be? It's got to be. Dang, this gets interesting. Is it Nick Ballore?
No, he's down at 20.
Okay. I'm trying to think of who's making biggish money along the team here.
Everybody
Tyler?
in the top. Everybody in the top 5 is over 7.
Is it Tyler?
Ding, number 2.
Okay. Shoot, who would be making more money? Is it Diggs? He's not even in the top 10?
Quandre Diggs is in the top 10. He's not in the top 5. His cap hit for 2022 is $5.8 million.
Okay. Brooks is still on his rookie deal.
The 1 spot, the 4 spot, and the 5 spot still open.
Will Dissly.
That's your third strike, dude.
Okay.
4.5. Show him the number 1 answer. Oh, wait, no. Do we start at 5? Show him number 5. Ding. Shelby Harris, your new defensive tackle from the Broncos.
Well, we didn't give him that contract. We inherited it. So give me a break on that one. Okay.
Okay, well, if you went 1 down, then it would be Uchenna Nwosu, who was just given the contract. Okay. Show him number 4. Ding. Gabe Jackson at number 4, $9 million. I guess we didn't give him that either. We got him in a trade. No,
yeah,
and
exactly.
then we restructured. So that was the Seahawks. So that's legit.
Okay.
Show him the number 1 answer. Ding. Defensive tackle Poona Ford.
Doesn't feel right, does it? And I love me some Poona. I do.
Yeah. We all love the Poona.
Yeah, exactly. Just pounding it. But yeah, that does seem like a bit of a mismanagement. But then again, I mean, I don't know. How much cap space do they have left at this point? In theory, in Magic money?
According to Spot Track, it's $16 million, and I think that's taking into account the future, the contracts of the draft picks coming up.
Gotcha. All right. Well.
But the dead money for Russ is $26 million.
Yeah.
Bobby's almost 4. Dwayne is 3.5. So
right.
And then another $10 million in dead money between Benson Mayoa, Gerald Everett, Kerry Hyder, Akella Witherspoon, Ethan Posick. Ethan Posick goes to the Browns for $1 million. We sign Austin Blythe for $4 million. And we can't bother to pay Bobby $10 million for next year.
Yep.
Bunch of crap.
Definitely when they signed Austin Blythe, that was the writing on the wall for Bobby, but they couldn't possibly bring him back. It's definitely Austin Blythe's fault.
Well, he's a former Ram. He's the one that I'm blaming.
Okay, that logic I can get behind.
Let's get to the second half of the show.
All right.
I just want to point out to everybody listening that during the break, when Adam stepped away and then came back, when he walked in front of the camera, he gave me like the full butt shot before sitting down.
Yeah, Randy mossed you.
Now I have a decision to make.
Whether or not to thank me or to thank me?
It's totally unrelated to your butt. Do I post-produce the game that we just played, Family Feud style, or do I leave in my manual dings and buzzers?
I love your manual dings and buzzers. I think they're perfect.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll leave them in.
Yeah. You've got great manual dings.
I'm a manual dinger. What can I say?
You are a manual dinger.
Getting into the second half of the show. Austin Blythe, man. Pete Carroll loves...
He's going to be your whipping boy all season. That poor bastard, he doesn't even know it's coming either.
I don't know if he will be, though, because I think we got a clue, and this was something that I worked through a little bit in talking with Rob Staten on the pre-draft episode that we did this past week.
Oh, nice.
Because Pete Carroll, for one, they way overpay Austin Blythe $4 million. A dude
we still disagree on that, but that's okay.
A dude who played 12 snaps last year and is suddenly making 4 times the amount that he did in the previous season.
Yeah.
4 times more than Ethan Posick, who actually, did stuff for you last year.
Okay, you can fixate on last year all you want, but he was a decent center the year before that.
Yeah, he's had one good year at center. A lot of people saying, oh, but he had multiple years with the Rams. Yeah, he had other years with the Rams where he was a guard, and then he was center for 1 season, and it was okay. It wasn't great.
Yeah, exactly. Offensive linemen are hard to come by, bud.
Yeah, well, you had one in Ethan Posick that was okay.
Then we disagree on that evaluation.
Austin Blythe will not be 4 times or even twice as better as Ethan Posick.
You can't look at it that way. Did the cap go up a bunch this year?
What?
Did the cap go up a bunch this year?
It went up a little. Why didn't Ethan Posick make more money going to the Browns?
Because he's not good.
Well, the good thing is I don't even think Blythe is going to be our starter, because when I hear Blythe getting a $4 million contract, I mean, when I hear Pete Carroll saying we're quote unquote loaded at center during his latest press conference, I think Pete is trying way too hard to take us off the scent that the Seahawks are trading back in the first round. They're going to draft Tyler Linderbaum this year, and that's going to be your future starting center.
I don't know. Sure, maybe, fine. Like that might be. I kind of look at this draft year this has been a weird year for John and Pete. You know, like there's been a lot that has gone down that feels not John and Petey in a lot of ways, like just surprises.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this year in the draft, we might see something very different. They may trade up in the first round and pick somebody that you would never expect.
Ooh, trade up and then take a cornerback. That would be the exact opposite of everything that we've known from the Seahawks in these last few years.
Yeah, I would put my money on that more than I would them trading down and taking a center.
I wouldn't mind that, actually. I like the top two corners that are expected to go in the top 10.
Okay, so one of them is the saucy guy, right?
Yep, Sauce Gardner.
Okay,
and
then
Derek
the other?
Stingley is his last name. LSU.
Ooh, great, DB name right there.
And the Seahawks defensive back coaches were reportedly at his pro day.
I see. Well, I also saw a report that Desmond Ridder is making a freaking visit to the Seahawks. Please, God, no.
If he slips down, it's fine.
He can't throw it in the ocean at 5 feet away, dude.
You watched the Indiana game, didn't you? That was
I watched 6 of his games.
Yeah.
Yes.
He ended up...
He's other Paxton Lynch.
I am kind of, when you talked about Carson Strong being Dan Fouts-ish, I went and watched a bunch of Carson Strong.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. Like how non-John and Pete would it be to go out and get a statue quarterback who is just quick at making decisions?
Yeah, he's got the best arm talent in this class.
And the quickest decision making.
Yeah.
Because he has to.
Well, yeah. I'd say him and Carroll have pretty similar decision making in terms of quickness. Yeah. Because all the RPO stuff, it's just different types of decisions that you're seeing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
One is more NFL style decisions than...
Right.
Yeah.
Shoot, if it was 15 years ago, I'd be all about Carson Strong.
There's nothing wrong with playing that way. If you're going to pound the football...
You can't move.
If you're going to pound the football and throw it to DK and Tyler, sure.
Maybe. I wouldn't be mad if they picked Carson Strong and it was like 3rd round, 4th round.
Look, Tom Brady and the Bucs are still finding a way to win.
Yeah, I know. You can't use Tom Brady as an example of, hey, statues still work. Only the best dude to ever do it. Like, just everybody can be like him.
Are you saying Carson Strong can't be Tom Brady?
I'm saying it's unlikely that he's going to be Tom Brady.
Probably a fair bet.
I'd be a little bummed if they took Willis because he's just so far away from being a dude. And I mean, Pickett terrifies me. I think he's slightly less Baker. Ritter.
Howell is the other one.
Oh God, no! Please, God, no, absolutely not.
He's the one that even looks like Baker to me.
Yeah, he kind of does. I mean, I think out of all of them, I'd be okay with Corral. I'd be okay with Strong. I like the kid from K-State, but again, you could pick him up late. It sounds like.
Yeah.
The kid from it was like Western Kentucky or something like that. Zappy. I mean, he might be an okay backup.
Yeah, there's a few intriguing guys out there.
Just please not Ritter.
I don't know. I saw some stuff from Ritter that I kind of liked.
Oh, sure. I'm not saying that there's nothing on the tape to, be like, oh, okay, there's an NFL throw. But you see one of those for every 10, like, what the hell? His feet are a mess.
I don't know enough about quarterback coaching to where I could look at something and say, that dude, if he could just fix this one thing, then he would be, that would solve so many other issues.
Yeah, I think if you worked on the feet a little bit, that would make a 40% difference probably.
And teach him to only throw over the middle and not get his dudes killed. Like,
Yeah.
that if you could avoid that too.
We'll see what they do. This is, again, it's going to be really interesting. You got to embrace the new. You got to embrace the chaos. You got to embrace the excitement of all of that if you want to move forward and be at least not a totally bummed out fan. That's the only way you can do it, in my opinion, if you want to feel at least a little bit good about what's happening right now.
And along the way, we will be embracing our new members of the flock and our executive producers, DCH, Dustin Mock, Brian Shaw, and Rebecca Christensen. DCH, Adam.
Yeah.
This past week came in with his annual executive producer donation, $1,500 via Venmo.
Good Lord. Douglas, thank you so much, man. Yeah, he's awesome. Like, I mean, he's a top 10 human being.
He's a top 10 human. He's a competitor. He comes into me saying, what do I have to do to stay on top? So I am the top executive producer. And he came through.
He's the first one into the pod. He's the last one to leave the pod.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What other
cliches can we throw
I feel
at
like
the
I should have thrown out another cliche after you to follow it up with.
Well, he is just one of those locker room guys like that everybody gets along with. A real leader in an unusual way with the reverse jinxes. Like, not everybody can lead like that.
That's true.
He's his own man. Yeah.
Well, thanks to DCH for coming through with the donation. Stephen Harrison also coming through at $48 annual donation Canadian. Welcome to the flock to Stephen.
Dude, that's awesome. I appreciate that greatly. That's 412s.
412s, yes. We got 112 from Brian Rasmussen for the annual donation. So welcome to the flock to Brian.
Welcome, man. Appreciate it a ton. I can't believe we're still getting little flockers this time of year. This has been our best this time of year in the offseason that we've ever had, I think.
They're holding us up this offseason. It's great.
Yeah.
Matt Robson gave us a raise from $1 to $20. Says, I restructured my Patreon contract to be fully guaranteed and front-loaded for off-season content. I've been meaning to do this for a while, but I had forgotten my password and couldn't bear the thought of the 27-factor authentications and 3 puzzles proving I am not a robot to make it right.
Yeah, no kidding.
Until today, I put on my big boy pants and told myself, do better. I appreciate all the hard work. Thank you. Go Hawks, from Matt.
Dude, thank you, Matt. Looking forward to absorbing your, prorated cap hit down the line here, your Patreon cap hit. But thanks, man. Appreciate it a ton. And I know that's an effort doing the puzzles. Like, sometimes they'll be like, pick everything with stairs, right? And they'll have a ladder in there. And you're like, wait a second.
Do I pick that? Would a robot pick the ladder as the stairs?
And sometimes, like, it's a ladder that has very wide rungs, right? Like the ladder into our loft here at the cabin. Like, some people might call that stairs. And some people call it a ladder. They'll sneak those in, and then you get it wrong, and then you got to redo the whole thing.
The one that gets me is the crosswalks, because like a little itty bitty piece of the crosswalk will be in the square. I'm like, ooh,
right.
Do I actually pick that square? Like, is there enough of the crosswalk in that square to be considered crosswalk?
Well, I've always imagined that every single Missoulian ever has completely and utterly failed the choose a crosswalk part
They're
of that.
picking the chimney. They're
They
picking
just
the
pick
palm
every
trees.
single picture. Yeah, I'd cross there. And without looking, I'd just walk right out there. Somebody will stop.
Be careful, people. If you ever go to Missoula,
Good God.
the crosswalks are everywhere. Like, you could be in the middle of the street. People will jump out in front of your car crossing the street, and you have to slam on the brakes. Like, just know that everybody crossing will not stop when they approach the road.
Please, like, this is not a joke. Like, you definitely keep your head on a swivel because they don't give up. Catfish! Like, they don't. They literally, and as they walk out into the crosswalk, dead nuts in front of you for like no reason, because if they would have stayed on the sidewalk for another 10 seconds, there was a giant gap in traffic that they could have easily walked across, and we could have avoided this entire near-death experience that just flashed before our eyes. As they start to walk out in front of you, they won't even look over at you at the car. They will just be looking at the phone, the sky, their shoes, anything but you, thinking that somehow that them as a human being is going to win that battle with the front end of your freaking motorized vehicle. God, they're the worst.
The weird thing is I got into it too. I was, because I work downtown. And so you just get into that mindset that I'm walking somewhere and I'm not stopping when I reach the road. And it's just, it gets ingrained in you somehow. Is it in the water?
It might be. I fought it off. I just refused to become a part of the no-look walk culture. I actually stopped, respected the fact that the 2,500-pound metal bullet coming at me at 30 miles an hour was probably going to catfish up my day a lot more than I was going to catfish up its day.
Yeah, I think part of it is that you just get kind of a little bit obsessed with the power that you have. Like, I'm making this machine stop when I walk into the middle of the road, and there's nothing that I'm invincible. And I survive. I survive my time.
Everybody seems to, for the most part. You do. I just, man, I don't know how many mini heart attacks I had during my time in Missoula of, just stomping on the brakes and hoping to gosh that we were stopping in time.
But you definitely learn fast as a driver that you stop every time you see a human.
Yeah, they're basically just a half a step up from a white-tailed deer in their irrational road crossings.
Now I stop for squirrels all the time. Like, something's moving, I'm stopping.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The squirrels do everything based on a dare in Missoula. I'm totally convinced.
So big thanks to all of our members of the flock.
We've had some awesome deviations in this podcast, some off the rail moments that I'm very proud of, actually. I think that's what makes this show this show.
I don't know how we got there, but getintheflock.com if you want to become a member of the flock.
Exactly.
We won't hit you with our car.
Right.
We'll stop
or
every
do
time.
our damnedest. Yeah.
Jacob Haas, one of our members of the flock, sent an email, said, "Hi, fellas. I know we're still trying to overcome the Russell trade, but I want your opinion on having to face him this year as we play the Broncos. And not only that, Bobby going to the Rams sucks. I want your take, and as always, go Hawks."
Well, this is what I'm rooting for in that game. I'm rooting for Russell Wilson to have food poisoning the Saturday before that we face them, because the Let's Ride curse is going to take him out for that game. And then we win by 3, 9-6.
9-6 win. Russ doesn't play. He's in the building, but he has to spend it all on the toilet because of the food poisoning.
Because he ate some bad Rocky Mountain oysters and then feels fine on Monday.
Or even Sunday night.
Sure. Oh, yeah. He doesn't have to go through a miserable night. Just can't be at the stadium.
He can't bring himself off or out of the restroom to make it onto the field.
Hashtag Let's Ride Curse.
Nate Smeltzer emails in, says, "Hey guys, these last couple shows have been wonderful. I really love that they're transforming into longer shows too. Having you guys release a show that's 2 hours long, it psychs the catfish out of me every time. Your coverage of the upcoming draft with Rob Staten was really refreshing, and the reaction to Bobby's departure was a tremendous show as well. Keep up the great work. Hopefully, on my birthday, we draft someone decent at number 9. P.S. This feels like the only actual year the NFL has the first round on my birthday. Let's go Hawks."
Hey, go Hawks, man, and merry birthday.
I feel the same way. This is my first birthday that I have Easter on my birthday.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, too bad it's not your 33 year.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, because then, that's the Jesus year for everybody, right? That's the year that he died and came back to life via magic and then walked out of a tomb. So, that was on Easter. So you should be turning 33 when your birthday falls on Easter.
Instead, it's 43, right? How old am I? Yeah, 43.
Yeah, 43, bud. Welcome to the club coming up here.
Woo!
Woo!
And then 11 years later, then I got another Easter birthday. It's weird. I don't get one my whole life, and then I get one, and then 11 years later, I get another one.
Huh, interesting.
I don't know why it works that way, but...
Sounds like voodoo to me.
Everett Crow emails in, says, "First off, catfish! this Russ trade is completely stupid timing and has just messed up the franchise entirely. Now, I know you guys have seemed against this, but I'm thinking we should tank for number 1 and draft Bryce Young or whoever ends up being the best. In the meantime, at quarterback, maybe give Kaepernick a deal. We probably wouldn't have to pay much, and it would be more fun and interesting than Locke. On the good side, at least we will have a reason to look forward to the draft this year. And as you said, we can no longer be accused of bandwagons. I got called a Fairweather fan by freaking Pats fans, the kings and queens of bandwagoning. Once again, catfish this whole trade. Please, God, don't let Bobby sign with the catfish Rams and go Hawks.
No, go Hawks, man.
Everett,
yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, Everett, yeah, this has been tough. Hey, I'm with you on all of that, bud. Like, and not only that, like the gall of Pats fans. Give me a break. Kings and Queens, they're basically up on the front of the stagecoach, driving the bandwagon. Give me a break.
The one thing about the Kaepernick comment that I could get behind is that it would be so much fun to beat the 49ers twice with Kaepernick.
The Kaepernick thing to me is watching the last time he was on the field, the league had kind of figured him out, and now he's sat for 4 or 5 years. Like, I don't see him as being any more fun on the field than Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock can do a lot more on the field right now than Kaepernick can. I just think if they offer him a contract or a tryout or whatever, that's all fine. Bring him in if you want to kick the tires. I'm all fine with it. I just find it extremely unlikely that he can be an NFL quarterback.
Well, and maybe they bring him in and give him a tryout. I don't know. Based on what Pete Carroll's saying, when I hear Pete saying, well, he's out there competing, he's out there trying real hard, that's Pete Carroll speak for, we're not doing it, but, I want to at least acknowledge him and give him what credit I can.
Right. And, I don't know where his second chance is going to come from. It might be something other than football, like insurance sales. Like, that's basically what he was saying.
Oh, Everett went on to say, P.S. Now even saying go Hawks is leaving a bad taste in my mouth, courtesy of Russ. Although now we're going to have to listen to him saying Broncos country, let's ride, or whatever his stupid little catchphrase is now. Ah!
Okay, see, this is kind of the point of what I've been doing on this podcast is I'm trying to make all of this better. So we're gonna retake the Go Hawks back. That's ours. And obviously Russ didn't take it with him, and he's turned it into let's ride. Like, great.
If he was saying like go Bronx, then I think we'd have to get off the Go Hawks thing.
Yep, but he didn't. And so Go Hawks is ours. Screw y'all. We're going to keep saying it, and we're going to do it with fervor. And now we're taking the let's ride, and we're turning it into a curse. It's the let's ride curse. #.
Oh, I forgot one more thing. I know this might seem unorthodox, but I'm throwing it out there. If we do tank, could we give DK the year off to go train for the Olympics? I know it would be a waste of money, but it would allow him to get even faster, and he obviously isn't going to want anything to do with tanking. Probably still have him show up to practice so he isn't rusty, but at least then we have something to root for during the period of time when the Hawks are going to suck.
I hear the perspective. I'd rather root for DK on the field than on the track and field.
It's true. Yeah. And it sounds like the Olympics is something that T kind of wants to do, but in the off season. And yeah,
that's a great hobby. I wish I had the ability to make a hobby. I might try to make the Olympic team.
I think you did have it as a hobby when curling, when you thought that curling might be your avenue into the Olympics.
Yeah, it might still be. I'm thinking of starting a curling club in Phillipsburg here this upcoming winter because they have an ice rink already.
The Olympics are not out of the question for you, dude.
You're right. I'm back in. Me and DK, we're just alike. We might pick up the Olympics as a hobby.
Future Olympians, Adam Emmert and DK Metcalf.
It just has a ring.
John Davison comes in, the Bard. Hi, fellas. Well, there was no way it was going to happen, but it did. I was slightly short of breath and coming up for air when someone kicked me right between the legs, taking my breath completely away, leaving the Bard speechless, which isn't really good for bards by definition. Bobby, Bobby, wherefore art thou, Robbie? He's gone. Move on, came the reply. but I wasn't fucking ready, you bastards. Still reeling a bit. I'm wading through free agency, but my brow hasn't been soothed at all. It's obvious now. We are going with Locke, and we will be catfish until next year. I write this, hoping to be proved wrong, but the one thing I've never seen mentioned, or maybe I missed this. Sometime next season, we play the Broncos at home. Come on, people, answer this. How are you going to feel when he runs out in a Broncos uniform in Seattle? This is bordering on heresy. I'm going to feel physically sick. QB gone, captain and linebacker gone, and Drew Lock in. A long, hard road is ahead. Go Hawks, from John.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about that because he won't be running onto the field because he'll be chained to a toilet.
He'll be physically sick, not you. That's how the Let's Ride curse works.
That's exactly it. See, this is how beautiful this curse is. It really does just fill in all the blanks for us. It's nice. Dude, I mean, obviously I'm with John. I mean, all this has genuinely felt like a kick right in the nads. It really has. It feels a lot like when I was about 14 years old and the little neighbor kid came up to me. His name was Scott. One of the funniest little kids I've ever known in my life. He must have been like, I don't know, 5 or 6. And he had a tracheotomy when he was little. So when he talked like this. And he walks up to me one day and he's like, "Yeah, hold out your hands and close your eyes." I was like, okay. So I did. He kicks me right directly in the nads, and all I hear as I'm writhing in pain on the ground is his little laugh as he's running away back over the neighbors. And I couldn't even be mad.
I like how your friend sounds like Mo from The Simpsons.
It's how he sounded. He was awesome, dude, man. He was fun to be around.
We need to get him on the show.
I haven't talked to him in probably 25 years. So
eventually, we'll get him on the show. This needs to happen.
Okay. All right, good.
On to do better and better at life.
My do better for this week is for me because the other day I stopped by Jared's place on the way down to do a job in Colorado and picking up some gear. And he looked at me, he goes, "Hey, man, when's the last time that you ran Waterworks Hill in Missoula?" I was like, probably with you, 10 years ago. He's like, "I'm thinking about doing it again." He's like, "I went through Missoula the other day, and I think it would be cool to be able to do that again." I was like, okay. Well, I was like, "When are you thinking?" It's like, "Beginning of July." All right. He's like, "So I'm challenging you to be able to run Waterworks with me in July." And I'm like, "Great. I can do that. I can get back to that. I can do that. And I used to run quite a bit. When I hurt my back, I was up to like 80, 90, 100 miles a month. Like I used to run quite a bit.
Yeah, you'd do like 4 miles a day or 8 miles a day.
7, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just fell off, moved to the cabin. Corona happens. Brittany moves in. You get fat and happy, all that stuff, right? And I went out to run my first run 2 weeks ago. And my God, I felt like a chubby tank just lumbering down the freaking road. I get to a half a mile, just dying, just can't breathe. I'm like, "Oh, too many cigars. No more. Haven't ran in 2 years." And just couldn't believe how garbage I've let myself become. I'm a terrible human, and I can't believe I let this happen to myself. And for all of that, being a human walking piece of catfish, jeez. I need to do better.
Oh, well, we can. You don't have to be quite so hard on yourself, man.
No, I do. That's unacceptable, soldier. You should be able to run at least a mile at any given time. Like somebody should just be able to look at you and be like, "You're running a mile," and you'd be like, "Oh, okay, I can get that done." Like that's just a good baseline level of fitness. You should always be able to do that. I got up to 1.4 miles yesterday.
Yeah, I'm going to start working on it too, I think.
Yeah. No, just pathetic. I was so mad at myself, man, at the turn at half a mile. And I'm just like walking so slow, making a lot of noise. Ugh.
It's going to be a lot like how Russell Wilson feels after the Let's Ride curse halfway through the season.
That's exactly right. He's going to be out there, trying to pirouette away from people and he won't even get a quarter of a turn in. You're like, what happened to me?
My do better for this past week is for the Razzies, the Golden Raspberry Awards. And I was going to have a very different take because, Will Smith and the slap, it took a lot of shine off of normally what you hear from the Razzies, which is the award ceremony for, it's like the counterbalance to the Oscars, where they give out awards for all of the worst things. And I wasn't too mad about them and this list that they put together. There was a category for worst performance by Bruce Willis in a 2021 movie. And Bruce was in like 8 movies last year.
Yeah.
And I went and watched one of the trailers, and okay, there's probably a good reason why he's not doing movies anymore. But it turns out it's for health reasons. And now the Razzies, they got to feel like crap that they're dogging on. They made a special category for Bruce Willis in the twilight of his acting career when he has a medical condition, and giving him an award for worst performance in one of his 8 movies in 2021 to the Razzies. Do better.
Oh man, it's always so brutal when you've kicked somebody and you didn't know they were down, but they happen to be down. Yeah. That's a bad feeling. And then it comes to light later and you're like, oh no, I'm terrible.
Well, that's why I'm not crushing him too bad, but it was do better worthy, because I kind of feel like you could have watched the movies and gone, well, maybe something's wrong with Bruce.
Yeah. He might be on the, tail end of things, Yeah. Yeah. So that's tough. Yeah. Do better worthy though. You're 100% right.
He was my guy. I love Bruce Willis movies. Last Boy Scout. It's a great movie. The Die Hard movies, obviously.
We only have another hour of podcasting, Brandon. We can't go through all of Bruce Willis's great movies.
No, it's true. It's true.
Yeah. I mean, an all-timer. Like, the boomers often say things like, oh, well, they're no Marlon Brando. Yeah. I think now that has to be retired. And it's, well, they're no Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis is our generation's John Wayne.
There you go. And Tom Hanks is our generation's Marlon Brando.
Yes.
So glad we hammered that out. We have figured out all sorts of amazing things on the podcast this week. What a gift. What a gift to the listeners.
What a great show we've put on for everybody this week.
Yeah. My elbow hurts from the angle for which I'm patting myself on the back. Like, it's really tough.
Well, should we close this out should we give each other our better at life? No, you must have a better at life that's not us related.
Okay, well, it's a little me related, but it's not for me, even though the name would suggest otherwise. My better at life than Skip Bayless this week is for Adam Zotto in Missoula, because I do a lot of my own work to my rigs when I can, but with as much travel and not having really a shop area out here at the cabin, it becomes a little difficult. And our little Jeep Patriot started making a horrific noise from the rear end, and I'd already changed both wheel bearings, and I thought it's got to be the rear end going out. But call the guy up. I'm like, dude, this is what's up. He's like, all right, bring it in. And takes a look at it, or about to take a look at it. He goes, if it's rear end, there's not much I can do about it. Specialty tools. You have to take it to Jeep. I'm like, I hate those guys. Those guys, soaked me out of about $7,000 once. It broke more stuff than they fixed along the way. Hell no, never taking it there. Please, God, help me. And so he hops in the car, takes it for a lap around the block, and he goes, it's the driver's side wheel bearing. I was like, but I just changed it. He's like, I know. But the parts these days that you get from the parts stores, the Chinese parts, the quality isn't there. And so I've known people to get 40,000 miles out of one. I've seen people get 0 miles out of one. And I'd gotten maybe 2,000 miles out of this wheel bearing.
Wow.
So go on my trip, come back, told him, no hurry. I don't need this back. It's our extra rig right now till we sell one of our other ones. And he had it done in 4 days. That was him taking his time, which is unheard of for a mechanic. Usually it's there forever. Show up and he's like, yep, it was the wheel bearing. And I'm expecting this to be thousands and thousands of dollars of repair work to have the rear end redone on this car. I let it sit for 6 months because I didn't want to deal with the rear end being bad in this car. $350. He didn't hose me on anything. He didn't overcharge me for labor. He found a good quality part to put in. And man, I've taken it on 2 long road trips with all the grinding gear and everything the last couple of weeks. It's fixed. Patty's back. Patty the Patriot. And it was all because of a stupid wheel bearing. But to Adams Auto for being honest, fast, quality, all that stuff, get me back on the road. You guys better at life than Skip Bayless.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's like an advertisement, but like a legit one because you actually believe in it.
Oh, 100%. I will be taking future rigs there when they have problems. And I know all of you in the background now who are stickering and being like, well, yeah, you buy Jeeps, you're going to be taking them in all the time. Shut up.
Never want noises coming from the back end. Never a good sign.
You want quiet back ends.
Quiet
I've learned that.
back ends all the time.
Yes.
Well, my better at life this week, you know what? I'm giving it to the Kansas Jayhawks for winning the NCAA championship. And not because I have any stake, real stake in the Jayhawks in winning the tournament, but because I just so happened to pick them in my bracket. And they won me my bracket challenge in this 30-person bracket that I went into. So this is all about me and winning the bracket challenge I was a part of.
What did you win?
I won 2 boxes of basketball cards, one from last year, so with Anthony Edwards and LaMelo, their rookie seasons, and then the latest year, which has Cade Cunningham and Mobley.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So those are the guys you're looking for in the latest years.
Did you find any of those guys in your box?
I haven't got it yet. They just won, and so I have to wait for the mail to arrive.
Well, very cool.
But yeah,
was this like an office pool, or was this something like
it's a Discord group that I'm part of, and they just had a free bracket challenge thing, and I'm like, well, I'll pick Kansas and Duke in the final. And
oh, damn, you almost got that too.
I almost nailed it.
Yeah, didn't need it though. You were too good otherwise.
It was actually I was in 4th place going into the final, but everybody in the top 3 had picked like other teams, and so they didn't have any way to win other than to have North Carolina win. Well,
so really, not better at life, Kansas Jayhawks. This is Brandon Schultz better at life than Skip Bayless. That's what you wanted to say.
I wasn't the one cutting down the nets, but I'll be the one opening the boxes of cards. So really, it will feel like my win.
I mean, being the champion that you are, I think there's nothing else to say after that. I think that's how you wrap up the show. On top, Brandon.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Still ours.